Here is your full, clear, naturally flowing English translation of Chapter 2, The Fiancé Who Doesn't Want to Break Off the Engagement. In Lee Lugo's memory, the first time he met Jiang Qingyi was when he was around 3 years old. Back then, it seemed his parents had traveled far from home, and when they returned, they brought back a 5-year-old Jiang Qingyi with them. Later, they took her in as their disciple. From this perspective, Li Luo and Jiang Qingyi were truly childhood companions, and his parents were extremely fond of her. However, the relationship between Li Luo and Jiang Qingyi during their childhood was rather delicate. Jiang Qingyi had always been too outstanding since she was young, and being 2 years older than him, most of their childhood squabbles would end with Li Luo getting pinned down coldly and beaten up by her. It was practically a nightmare. As for why Jiang Qingyi became his fiancée, it was said that it happened when she was around 10 years old. That time, his father had drunk too much and said, "If only little Qingyi could become our family's daughter-in-law, that would be perfect." The next day, 10-year-old Jiang Qingyi personally wrote up an engagement contract and handed it to his stunned father. That time, his father was nearly beaten senseless by his furious mother when she chased him back into the house. The worst part was that Li Luo, who had been happily watching the drama from the side, ended up getting a beating from his mother too. Afterward, his mother told Jiang Qingyi to take the engagement contract back, but to everyone's surprise, Jiang Qingyi displayed a stubbornness that left them helpless. She simply knelt silently before his parents. In the end, his parents could only give in, but they put the engagement contract away and never brought it up again, treating it as if it didn't exist. As time passed, this matter seemed to fade away quietly, to the point that even Li Luo himself eventually forgot about it. However, a few years ago, when Jiang Qingyi was attending Nanfan Academy, a pursuer had been so persistent and crazed that she ended up publicly declaring that she and Li Luo were already engaged. Thankfully, Li Luo had not yet entered Nanfan Academy at that time, or else he would have become a target for everyone's resentment. Yet even though several years had passed, the aftermath of that incident still allowed Li Luo, who was now attending Nanfan Academy, to deeply feel Jiang Qingyi's overwhelming charm. "Dad, you really screwed your son over," Li Luo sighed inwardly. Just as he was lost in his thoughts, a girl's voice suddenly sounded behind him. "Li Luo, do you stop here every day because you enjoy the envious stares of everyone else?" Li Luo turned around and saw a pretty young girl standing behind him. Her long hair fell to her waist, and although her beauty couldn't compare to Jiang Qingyi's, she was still very attractive, her slim school uniform hugging a youthful figure that was already starting to develop alluring curves. At this moment, the girl had her arms crossed, looking at Li Luo with a slightly mocking expression. Faced with her gaze, Li Luo remained calm. This girl's name was Tifa Qing, a student from the First Academy, and one of the renowned beauties of Nanfan Academy. She was also from the Tifa family, one of the 3 great clans in Tianxia province. Li Luo had no personal grudges with Tifa Qing, but she was a die-hard, fanatical supporter of Jiang Qingyi, so much so that she had lost all sense of reason. In her eyes, Jiang Qingyi was like a perfect celestial being, and no man in this world was worthy of her. Naturally, this included Li Luo. Even though Tifa Qing admitted that Li Luo's looks were top tier, she felt that judging someone solely by appearance was far too shallow. A person like Jiang Qingyi deserved a man who was exceptional inside and out, a true dragon among men. In her view, Li Luo, relying on his parents' status to somehow secure an engagement with Jiang Qingyi, was nothing less than an insult to her goddess. Thus, ever since Li Luo entered Nanfan Academy, every time he ran into Tifa Qing, he would be subjected to a barrage of sarcasm followed by her relentless questioning, "Li Luo, when are you going to break off your engagement with senior sister Zhang?" As expected, the moment he heard this line, which had been repeated countless times, even Li Luo couldn't help but rub his temples, replying irritably, "What's it got to do with you?" Then, he turned around to leave. Seeing this, Tifa Qing's pretty face flushed with anger as she persistently followed him, shouting, "Li Luo, do you really think you're a toad worthy of eating swan meat?" Li Luo, however, continued to ignore her completely, which only made her face darken with rage. She quickly caught up to him and said, "Li Luo, if you don't break off this engagement, you're only going to bring trouble upon yourself. The more outstanding senior sister Zhang becomes, the more trouble you'll have. Your parents have been missing for years, and your Luolan mansion is now on shaky ground, so your status as the young master doesn't carry much weight anymore. You have no idea how many young geniuses across the Great Xia Kingdom, all with powerful backgrounds and extraordinary talent, are in love with senior sister Zhang. You can't expect her to repay your parents' kindness in this way. Li Luo, if you don't break off your engagement with senior sister Zhang, forget about other places. Even within Nanfan Academy, people will come looking to cause you trouble." Li Luo finally stopped and said, "Oh, who's coming to cause me trouble?" Tifa Qing snorted lightly. "The Bei family's Bei Kun. You should know him well. He's already put out word that he hopes you'll stop using your status to get close to senior sister Zhang. Also, he wants you to meet him at Qingfeng Pavilion in 2 days to have a chat." Li Luo chuckled. "Of course I know him. Back then, he loved following me around. In those days, when his parents were still around, the weight of Luolan Mansion's words within Tianxia province was no less than that of the governor's mansion. As for Bei Kun, he would often come looking to curry favor with him. Who could have expected that after the upheaval in Luolan Mansion a few years later, this so-called powerful young lord, who had once been so eager to befriend him, would now be the first to cause him trouble? Back then, Bei Kun loved nothing more than hosting banquets at Qingfeng Pavilion and warmly inviting Li Luo to attend. Now, he actually wanted Li Luo to go there at his invitation, but for trouble. How direct of him. Tifa Qing said coldly, "Don't think it's funny. That's how the world works. When your family is powerful, people will flatter you. Now that Luolan Mansion has lost power, why should anyone give you face? After all that respect was earned by your parents, not you." Li Luo nodded in agreement. "You're not wrong about that." He had learned firsthand about the cold and warmth of human nature over the past 2 years. So, he didn't argue further, quickening his steps as he headed out of the academy. Yet Tifa Qing stubbornly followed him, chattering non-stop like a buzzing fly. Everything she said revolved around one idea: she wanted Li Luo to give Zhang Qingyi her freedom. Li Luo knew the best way to deal with someone like her was to ignore her completely, so he didn't say a single word as he walked through corridor after corridor until he finally exited the academy gates. The moment he stepped outside, he suddenly noticed that the surrounding noise seemed to quiet down significantly. Even Tifa Qing, who had been buzzing beside him like a fly, fell silent as if her throat had been seized. Li Luo turned to glance at her and saw that her face was flushed, her eyes brimming with excitement as she stared down the academy's stone steps. Following her gaze, Li Luo saw a carriage parked at the bottom of the steps. The carriage was antique and elegant, spacious yet dignified, drawn by 4 sturdy, dark red lion horse beasts. On the carriage was a familiar insignia. It was the emblem of Luolan Mansion. But what truly caused Tifa Qing's face to flush and the surrounding students to look on with excitement wasn't the carriage itself, but rather the girl standing in front of it. The girl's long hair was casually tied into a ponytail, her delicate face calm and indifferent, glistening beautifully under the setting sun. She wore a short, azure cloak, slender long boots, and a battle skirt that revealed her long, straight, snow-white legs, enough to leave anyone breathless. But the most striking feature was her pair of dazzling, pure, golden eyes that shone like the blazing sun. It was Jiang Qingyi. A commotion broke out outside the academy as countless students stared at her slender figure in excitement. They had never expected to see this living legend, who had once walked out of Nanfan Academy, appear before them today. Li Luo, amid the fervent gazes, walked down the steps to stand in front of Jiang Qingyi, looking at her in surprise. "Qingyi, when did you get back to Nanfan City?" Although Luolan Mansion originated in Nanfan City, after becoming one of the four great houses of the Great Xia Kingdom, its focus had shifted to the capital, Great Xia City. After Jiang Qingyi entered St. Qian Star Academy, the top academy in Great Xia, she also moved to Great Xia City. Coupled with her responsibilities managing Luolan Mansion over the past 2 years, she rarely returned to Nanfan City, and Li Luo hadn't seen her in a long time. Jiang Qingyi looked at Li Luo and said calmly, "Tomorrow is your 17th birthday, and Luolan Mansion also has some important matters to discuss here tomorrow. I just arrived in Nanfan City today and came to take you home." Her voice was exceptionally pleasant.